Welcome to Exposing Deathcare, the podcast that pulls back the curtain on the funeral industry, revealing the truth behind its darkest practices. I'm your host, Em, and each episode we bring you real stories from funeral directors and death care workers who have experienced the best and worst of this hidden world. Listener discretion is advised. The stories shared in this podcast are presented anonymously to protect the privacy of the individuals involved. Thank you for listening, and we hope that by sharing these stories, we can work together to improve the funeral industry for everyone involved. Before we dive in, a quick disclaimer. The stories shared on this podcast are anonymous and may contain sensitive content. Welcome to Exposing Deathcare, the podcast. Today, your host, M, is speaking with our guest, M. M, welcome to the show.
Hi.
Hi. Let's talk about this. You've got a very interesting story that you reached out to me with.
Yes.
I want to start with asking just the basics. How did you get into death care?
So I kind of came a little bit later to the game. I was a musician at first. I've always wanted to get into death care. In high school, I talked about becoming a mortician, but 2020 is when I really thought, okay, this is it. It's my time to go into it because of COVID, no one was performing. I couldn't teach. I was only teaching through virtual. It was twice as much work. I'm sure that, any teacher that went through COVID knows exactly what I'm talking about. In the fall of 2020, that's when I applied to the University of Central Oklahoma for the mortuary program that they have there in Edmond. I went to that program, found a couple of funeral homes, applied to them, didn't hear back from anyone except one got back to me within a day. And that was the one I thought, okay, I'm going to go there. I went to this father-son family-owned funeral home near my area. It's a father and two sons. We're going to call the father S. Son one is just going to be T, and the other son I'm not even going to bring in until later. So T was the owner's son. He mostly worked at one of the locations. This family owned 3 funeral homes.
Wait.
Yes.
Let me pause you.
Okay.
Before we jump into talking about them, I want to get how much you were paid and stuff. When you went to mortuary school, were you also working at this funeral home at the same time?
I was working at the funeral home at the same time. I went in, we had 2 interviews. The interviews went really well. They gave me an offer. They gave me a tour of the funeral home. I had a really great conversation with the manager. We'll call him D. Whenever he gave me the offer, he was like, okay, so this is what the schedule is like for an apprentice. At first, I started out part-time, and I was working when they needed me for services from like 8 to noon, noon to 5, 3 to 8 for visitations or whatever. But then it quickly, very quickly, within like a few weeks, it became full-time. They started me at $9 an hour. Then after like a probationary period, they bumped me up to 10. Then we got another apprentice, and we're going to call her R. She came on. She was apparently making more at another funeral home that she worked at. She talked to the boss. Then all of a sudden, we both end up getting bumped up to like $15 an hour, working full time, 8 to 5. We're on call every other day. So Monday, Wednesdays, Fridays, and every other weekend. We have a rotating schedule. We're on call for all 3 funeral homes every other night whenever we would rotate. And one of the things that we both noticed whenever we first started working there was like how warm and welcoming everybody seemed to be at this family-owned funeral home, and we were excited about it. But then things kind of quickly, after about like a few months, kind of went downhill. They offered me a full-time position after graduation, and I was very excited about it. But unfortunately, I ended up leaving because of what we are going to talk about.
And let's get into that. You sent me an email that made my jaw drop to the floor, and I'm ready for you to share that with our listeners. Jump into it.
I started working for this funeral home in May of 2021, and being there after about a year, I had experienced a couple of things from this family-owned funeral home that made me decide, okay, I think I'm going to leave after I graduate. One day I am coming in. The son, T, is kind of going through some things within his personal life. He's having a really rough time, marriage and just other outside factors. Well, I see him come in, he walks into the funeral home, and he has a gun on his hip.
So real quick, let me pause. I wanted to look up and see if Oklahoma was an open carry, and it is an open carry state.
Yes.
Their constitutional carry law allows most residents over the age of 21 or military members over 18 to carry firearms openly or concealed without a permit. While
Yes.
the law allows open carry in many public spaces, there are restrictions in certain places like government buildings, schools, and private properties, blah, blah, blah. So he walks in with a gun, which is
Yes.
legal.
Yeah. But it's the fact that it's him walking in with a gun, because I had already witnessed prior behavior to this that was
Ooh.
very concerning. I'm
Okay.
talking, it rhymes with shmrehab.
Okay.
Sorry, because I don't know, like, so he's gone, like,
No,
he's
you could say
gone.
whatever you. Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, like, this guy was in rehab. Yeah,
So you
and
have drug abuse issues.
yes, he did have some of
Okay.
that drinking issues, and
Anger.
yes, and
Okay.
I'm not a psychologist, a psychiatrist, but there was also some, mental health issues, like everyone in this business almost deals with. Like a lot of us deal
Oh
with.
yeah.
I mean, we all come into contact with it at some point, anxiety, depression, just because of what we are surrounded with. So
Mm-hmm.
he walks into the funeral home. I'm a little concerned just because of who he is and how I've seen him act. And I'm thinking, this is a person that doesn't need a gun. He walks into one of the back offices. I'm watching him walk around. And then I ask him and I said, "Oh, so when did you get the gun?" And he goes, "Oh, yeah, I just got it like a few days ago in case if somebody tries to attack me or someone tries to come after me." He was trying to like act tough. I don't know what his deal was. But then he pulls it out of his holster. He goes, "In case I need to, bap." And then he lifts the gun, points it at my face. So I am making eye contact with this man's fucking gun pointed right at my face.
Uh-huh.
And it was loaded. Rule number one, anybody who is a responsible gun owner knows you never point a gun at someone unless you are intending to shoot, and you always handle guns as if they are loaded. You always treat firearms as if they are loaded.
You're taught that as a fundamental rule in
Yeah.
firearm safety courses, and they're like covered by organizations like the NRA, National Rifle Association, or other state certified firearm training programs. So yeah, there are main 4 rules. Treat every gun like it's loaded. Never point a gun at anything you're not willing to destroy. Keep your finger off
Mm-hmm.
the trigger and your sight on the target. And be sure of your target and what is beyond it. Nope,
Yeah.
he just whips it out, holds it right in your face.
Yeah. He just whipped it out, pointed at my face, and then he points it back down. I'm in shock. I literally just stand there.
Oh, yeah.
And it felt like I was standing there for 5 minutes, but I know it was just a second. I walked out of that room into another room, stood there trying to compose myself because I thought this motherfucker really just pointed a loaded gun at my face. I was really in shock. I walked back into the room and I looked at him and I said, "Is that gun loaded?" And he goes, "Oh, well, the clip is in the gun, the magazine's in it, but I don't know if there's a bullet in the chamber." Yeah,
Whoa. Now,
exactly.
is this what you had recorded or no?
This is not what I had recorded.
I was going to say, so you asked him if it was loaded and he told you that.
Yes, yeah, the magazine was in the gun, but
Mm.
we both do not know if there was a bullet in the chamber because he did not empty out the magazine and he did not check to see if the chamber was clear. So there
He
could
just,
have been a bullet in that gun.
yeah, he just straight up pulled it out of his holster.
Yeah.
Mm.
He left to go to one of the other locations, and I was still in a state of shock. And I walked into my manager's office, D's office, and I
Mm.
said, "Hey, so T has a gun, right?" And he looked at me and he goes, "Really?" And I was like, "Yeah, he came in with it and he pointed it at me." And he was like, "Okay, I will go and talk to S." So he
Mm-hmm.
goes and talks to T's dad. We have a service the next day. I don't hear anything until the next day. Go and work this service. I'm doing the flowers, taking the flowers to the funeral, into the cemetery. And once we get out there, then S comes up to me and he says, "So is it true that my son pointed a gun at your face. And I said, yes, it is. S just looks at me. He gets really mad and he just calls his son an idiot over and over and over. He goes, he's just an idiot. I'm sorry. He's an idiot. He's the biggest idiot on the planet. And he was like, that never should have happened. I will talk to him. I will make sure he never brings that gun back to work. I will make sure that he apologizes to you. And I will make sure that this gets taken care of. The next day, T comes in. He's acting kind of weird, joking around, making like a bunch of just weird random jokes. And I could tell that he was nervous because I was like, okay, he's working up to apologize to me. And he pulls me into one of the offices and he was like, hey, M, can I talk to you? And I was like, yeah, you can talk to me. What's up? And he said, so, I just, I don't remember what happened. I don't remember exactly how it happened. Sorry, I've played this recording so many times I have it memorized.
Do you want to
So,
play it for us?
oh my gosh, yes, I do. Hold on, let me pull it out. We are coming in with receipts. We are coming in hot today.
All right, so I do want to ask you what led you to record the apology? Did you get it ready while you were walking in because you knew something was coming?
So my husband, he was my boyfriend at the time. Whenever I told my husband about what happened, I was like, oh, he just pointed a gun at me. I texted him that. He was like, I will come down there right now and beat the crap out of him because he's a gun guy and he understands the severity of this issue. He was the one it's because of him that I have finally filed a complaint, that I'm finally standing up for myself. It's because of my husband that I got the balls to do this.
Okay.
But yeah, no, let's go for the recording. So as far as for the recording, I I was just like, just get something. Just get something. Okay.
From what I don't remember exactly. What I remember is that I had the clip out and it cocked back so that it was completely unloaded. Is that not how it happened?
Mm-mm.
Okay. So I'm sorry.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. I didn't mean to like offend you or scare you or anything. I would never intentionally try to do that. I apologize.
No, thank you.
Okay. You're welcome.
You can just hear like how awkward and how fucking like that was the most bullshit.
It sounds forced. He sounds nervous. That doesn't sound genuine to me whatsoever.
Oh no, it is not. Because the fact that he was like, I don't remember how it happened, but what I remember is the magazine was out and I had the gun cocked back so you could see that the chamber was open. No, fucker, you did not have the chamber open. You did not have the fucking magazine pulled out. It was in, it was loaded. You know what you did. You're just pissed that you got caught. After, it took me 8 months to leave this funeral home afterwards because anyone who has a job out there knows you can't just leave without some type of backup. Like I have to have insurance. I have a roof to pay for. I have utilities I like, kind of like air conditioning and heating. I like having that stuff. So I kind of need a job. So it took me.
Yeah. And then on top of that, it's very difficult to transfer within the funeral industry, as you know.
Yes.
To different facilities, especially after you went through all of that to find one that would hire you. And now you had one and you didn't want to let that go.
Yes. I remember listening to a few of your earlier episodes and especially that first episode. Like I listened to that one twice, 3 times because I was just like, this is so true. You have that fear. Like now I'm over here and I'm like, S ain't shit. He can come after me. He can try to sue me for this. He can try to do something. I've heard through the grapevine that he's telling people this is a he said, she said moment. And I know it is not a he said, she said. This is a, he did, she got him. And now everyone's pissed because the funeral home is under probation. They got to pay a $7,500 fine. T has to pay a $750 fine. D has to pay a $750 fine. And on top of that, T also has to take a gun safety course before the end of the year.
So circle back. Which one is the funeral director in charge? Which letter?
That D, as in dog.
D. So because they were funeral director in charge when the incident happened, how much were they fined?
He was fined $750. In the consent order that the funeral board sent me, it shows that both funeral directors, the FDIC, so the funeral director in charge, D, and funeral director T, are both subjected to pay a $750 fine.
Wow. And then the funeral home had to pay how much?
A $7,500 fine.
Oh, pathetic. Okay, and then pathetic on what the other two had to pay as well. Okay, and then how were licenses affected?
T was suspended from practicing for 30 days.
Excuse me?
Yeah, here's the thing. My theory is if I had spoken up sooner, I think
Uh-huh.
the consequences, I should have called 911 the
Oh
moment that
yeah.
happened. But I was so stunned and so scared and I was like, "No, I can't." It's the fucking way that we're raised. Like I'm in therapy now and I am breaking
Yeah.
down so many barriers. Like the fact that my dumbass thought, "Oh, no, we can't disrupt the workday."
Oh, yeah.
Like, I mean, who the hell thinks that?
Yeah.
I really like, I regret not calling 911. I really do.
Oh yeah, hindsight is always 2020 in these instances, and my gosh, the fact that you even made it through the rest of the day. Whew.
I know, right? And the fact I stayed there, oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
So it was your boyfriend turned husband that finally gave you the courage to file a complaint with the Oklahoma Funeral Board, right? Do you feel the board's response and the imposed sanctions are adequate, or is there more that should have been done?
Honestly, now because it being 2 years later, I do feel like it is adequate. That's just, I mean, honestly, I feel like more could have been done,
Hmm.
more should have been done. Um, but I think it only
At
would
this,
have happened if I responded sooner.
yeah. So at this point, you're just glad that something was done and that it
Yes.
was, even looked into.
Yes.
Anything else about that story that you have to share before we move on to other stories?
My biggest advice, if someone pulls a gun on you, speak the fuck up. Don't do what I did.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Anything that happens in the workplace,
Yeah.
violence related.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we've been
Oh,
over all the different things that happen. What? Tell me. Oh,
oh, sorry. No, I know. I just realized the biggest part about this, the part that kind of like hurts me the most is that I was encouraged, to keep quiet by the boss.
mm-hmm.
And whenever I would like tell people and be like, oh, yeah, T pointed a gun at my face, everyone was like, what? Like some of the coworkers didn't find out until a few weeks later. I know, right? I was like, damn, I thought news traveled fast in this industry.
Boy, they sure kept that one quiet. Mm.
Now, anytime anybody asks, oh, weren't you at, this place? Yeah, I was. I left because a gun was pointed at my face. So,
Mm-hmm. You mentioned experiencing or seeing racism, sexism, fat phobia, and unethical practices at that funeral home. Are you comfortable sharing any specific instances of those experiences?
absolutely. This is one about racism.
Okay.
We sitting in the office and all of a sudden we hear the door open and we see a pretty big family walk in and they happen to be a Hispanic family. So there's at least 6 people that walk in and
Mhm.
then I hear, "Oh, fuck, another Mexican family." And I'm yeah, exactly. I'm standing there and I was like, "I'm Hispanic." So I was as soon as they
Yeah.
said that I was like, "Oh."
What are the different ethnicities of the people that were in the office when this happened?
So there was me, Hispanic, and then 2 white people, and that was it. Everyone else was
Okay.
either working a service or at another location. While I was there, there were, several white men, a few white women. There was myself, one of the Hispanic girls. There was another Hispanic director. We had one girl, she was black and white and Native American. And then we got another Hispanic apprentice, and she was a funeral director there. So there was like more so like Hispanic people and more so white, but we served a lot of like Hispanic and white families and a lot of Asian families too. But
Mhm.
yeah, the fact that, a Hispanic family walks in and I hear, ah, fuck, not another Mexican family, or it's just
I've
so
heard it.
disheartening.
Oh, I've worked for people like that. And I'm sure that anybody listening to this, probably 75% have also had the
Oh, yeah.
mm,
I understand being nervous about meeting, with a family that has like different accent or because like some people with hearing aids, they have trouble understanding accents or some of my family members because their accents are so heavy and I do have a hard time hearing. It's hard for me to understand them. So I do get nervous whenever I hear people with thicker accents just because I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to understand. But for them to do that to every fucking family that would walk in was just, it was
Mhm.
just, I was like, really? You guys just can't act better than this?
Let's go into generation. The person that said this, were they a boomer?
Yes.
Yeah, I figured as much. Ugh. You can
Yep.
tag those directors anywhere.
Mm-hmm. The weird thing is, it's so funny to see the different generations. Like, you'll see the boomers, they'll be like, ethnic people,
Mhm.
or wow, these weird traditions. It's fascinating to see the different ways how directors like navigate.
Yeah, the different cultures and
Yeah.
things. What I've observed is the younger generations are so much better at this than some of the
Yeah.
older ones.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, because they understand, hey, the world isn't just about me. Not everybody celebrates something this way. Not everybody mourns this way. There's more than one way to do things. I feel like the younger generation realizes, hey, there's enough room at the table. Let's just make a bigger table.
So do you have another story?
Ooh,
Or maybe two, I don't care.
let's see. Oh my gosh, no, I'll tell a good story. So, I remember working with different apprentices. I feel like that sometimes the funeral homes will try to like pit the apprentices against one another.
Yes.
Like, oh, when so and so was an apprentice, well, they did this much work. They did 5 removals and they never cried. Women experience that more so, the competition pitting women against each other. I was working with 2 of our funeral directors, E and C. Working with them, it was fucking magical because it was just, like this wonderful group of positivity. The funeral director E, she's like 4'9", tiny little thing, but she's just this fireball who is a workhorse, one of the best funeral directors I have ever met. She always has such a positive attitude and she's so encouraging. Whenever I worked with another director and I was like, oh, I don't know how to do this, they responded with negativity. But she was a funeral director that was like, that's okay, girl, I got you. I'm going to teach you how to do this. You're going to learn how to do this and this. And she was very positive and wanting to teach me. And those are more the directors that we need.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Oh my gosh. She was just fantastic. So I see E and C working, and then I was like, I don't know, just being around those type of people, they just inspire you. They made me feel like I was working even harder, even though I am already a hard worker. They were the type of people that would say, oh, you don't know how to do this? Let me show you.
Nice.
Every time I think about those, like 2, and then there's another girl there. Her name is V. Absolutely fantastic. She's the same way. She'd be like, let me show you how to do it.
That's awesome because they're genuinely, I have not run into enough people like that in the many years that I've been in the funeral service industry. They did pit people against each other. There were cliques at work.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I can't think of anybody that I have worked with that had that attitude. Now I have run into people like that worked for like mortuary services or another funeral home, but I never had the honor of working with anybody that was that positive and that
Yeah.
good to be around, you know?
Oh my gosh. No, they were, especially seeing like that little tiny director E, like just working. She is just like such a bright light of energy. One of those people where I'm like, yeah, she makes me want to stay in this industry, as opposed to
Yeah.
one of those people that, it's like, oh my gosh, I questioned myself after that funeral home and I was like, am I really meant to be in this field?
Mhm. Yeah, I think a lot of people have had that thought,
Oh
and then we
yeah.
lose a lot of people that way.
Exactly. I was thinking about that the other day. Well, I think about it all the time. I'm just like, these boards are complaining about funeral directors leaving. They need to do more investigating
Mhm.
because I mean, let's be honest, it's the funeral homes and it's some of these funeral directors that are driving the younger people away.
Oh, yeah. I have only reported employers to the states in Washington. I'll tell you how the board handled it in Washington. After this incident, they observed people attacking my license. It was definitely retaliation. They didn't pay attention to any of that. They continued to ask me questions.
Of
When they
course.
went and investigated my 12 complaints against my former employer, which included cremating a minor child without mother's signature in the state of
Oh my
Washington, mother and
God.
father both have to sign, and never let mom see the child before cremation happened.
Oh,
One of 12 things that happened. The closing of that was they went out there, they did some corrections, like they found some things wrong with the files, some things wrong with the pre-need, some things wrong with next of kin signing off, slap on the wrist. Basically, I was told to take a continuing education class, and that was it. I, on the other hand, am still fighting for my life
oh my God.
to get my license, but that's a whole nother story.
Wow.
You know, I went into this industry thinking I'm going to make change for the better. I'm going to do great things. I should have read up on what happens to whistleblowers and watchdogs in
I,
industries,
oh my gosh,
because I
no.
wouldn't. People that say that they want to go out and change the system, I'm just like, you better have some money, some supports in your family, and a good lawyer.
Yes. I think of, like the Boeing whistleblower. Anytime I think of
Hmm.
whistleblowers, I'm just like, well,
Oh yeah,
yeah,
and you know that they could get away with murder if they wanted to. You know, these funeral directors.
exactly. Oh my
Like,
gosh,
let me
yeah.
let me tell you a story. See, do you remember the funeral home in Colorado, the big
Yes.
hoo-hoo that happened with that? I'm not I'm gonna say that there was an instance where one of those individuals had another business partner, and that person just fucking vanished. This person that had that business partner had access to a crematory.
Mm.
Back in the 90s, when I was going to mortuary school, in Dallas, there was a crematory outside of Dallas that the key was just above the door. Like, all the students knew it, where the key was. And we'd even said things before, man, it'd be easy to get rid of a body out here. Now, hopefully things like have changed. But yeah, like, we've seen unsolved mysteries, different things like that, where somebody was
Yes.
buried underneath the casket. Mm, yeah, so I should have been thinking about all of that. It's a wonder I'm not missing.
Yeah, no, if all of a sudden we see that you don't have any podcasts,
I'm suddenly silent on
yeah,
Instagram. That's
yeah,
when you know there's something to worry about.
yes. And then it's just like, okay, well shit.
Don't worry, I got Kermit the Attack Dog. He'll keep me safe. He knows how to be a big tough guy if he needs to.
Oh my gosh. But no, I really want to ask you. So I was going to ask you about that. How have things been since you have started this podcast? Because I have heard from other people in this industry that you have started receiving backlash. And I
Mhm.
think, because I mean, what you are doing is like, this needs to be done.
I haven't really spoken out much about what has happened to me in the last 2 years, because there's a time and a place for it.
Oh, yeah.
But being, um, there were some individuals that, I mean, I'm too trusting. That's part of my flaw. I've learned this with my therapist. I'm just way too open in the hopes of having camaraderie and community. And I let these people far too in to my thoughts in my life and my personal mental struggles, because I thought I had community. I thought that I was establishing work relationships that were going to, you know, be fruitful and la la la.
Yes. Oh
But
my God, girl, same.
yeah, so you open up to these people because it's like your second family anyway.
Yeah.
What I didn't realize is, because of my social media presence, people were looking for a reason to not like me. I guess it's that parasocial relationship where you see
Oh,
somebody online, that's like one way, but then you meet them in person and they don't meet up to your expectations. So suddenly they're the bad guy. So all
yes.
my life I've been picked on. Like, this has been an elementary school thing on, and that's probably something to do with my personality that I can't control, being neurodivergent. I'm learning to accept that now, but going through the process of trying to trust people and then being completely backstabbed or blindsided by them in the race to make them more important in the career field. Like, I've
Yes.
had people steal my ideas. I mean, it's just been everything. So the last year I've really been working on my mental health. Um, I've had a hiatus, and I still post funny stuff that's interesting, but I am scared to put myself out there again because I don't want people to have access to me like that.
Yes, I was the same way. I was so excited to get into this business whenever I went to this funeral home. Everyone talked about how much of a hard worker. They were like, wow, we haven't had an apprentice like you in a long time.
Yeah.
And I was fueled by that. I also seek for validation, so that's something I've been working on, only needing my validation. I've been working with a therapist for a while, to because I was the same way, way too trusting. I let all these people in. Now I'm hearing that because I stuck around that funeral home for a little bit, they were like, "Well, she was talking with us every day after that incident happened. She showed up to work still." And them not knowing, the real reason behind it. But
Mhm.
after all that bullshit that I went through, now I'm like, well, you guys don't deserve to know the real reason.
Yours is by far more harrowing than anything that I've experienced. But like observing the way some places that I work treated the deceased, like
Oh my
that
god,
should have
yeah.
been my first red flag to walk away, but
Yeah.
you couldn't. I couldn't, especially because at the point that I already had social media, I had made a presence of myself online. Getting in there and seeing these things, I was like, I knew corporate funeral homes weren't going to hire me at this point because I was already talking bad about embalming. So I had to work for the undesirable. Seeing some of the things that I saw, like,
Yeah,
I'll
it's
say cremating the wrong body, like, thank God I had nothing to do with that one, but simple things like that.
seeing some of the things that go on. It's just I feel the same exact way whenever I saw a red flag. And oh my gosh, and that's another thing with this funeral home. I did see a red flag. Some of the other apprentices saw red flags. They said something. I remember saying something, and the boss just dismissed it. He is
Yeah.
very dismissive with concerns because um he there's two sons.
Mhm.
One does more work than the other, but in the end of the day, if you ask any of the funeral directors there, they'll be like, "Oh, they don't do any work." I remember whenever I did get offered that position, the very first thing every single director and employee there said to me whenever I was like, "Oh my gosh, S offered me a full-time position after graduation." Every single person said, "That's wonderful. Leave. Run."
Oh. Oh. Yep. Yep. I've been there, and I'm sure a lot of other people in this industry have been there too. But that's why we're doing this podcast. And I wanted to circle back to something I didn't answer because I went on one of my little tangents um, about the impression of this podcast on those that are in the industry. They should listen to it. Maybe
Yeah.
they'd have a little bit more empathy and compassion for those that they work with. I did this because I had no other outlet to discuss what I had been through, and I knew that others felt the same.
Yes. Oh my gosh, yes. So
So, this is why I keep people anonymous when they come on, because I know how vindictive the funeral industry is as somebody who has been the target.
yeah.
And I wouldn't want to put anybody else through that. Like, I see these new people coming on social media, and as somebody that's had the social media presence since 2016, I like I just want to tell them, be careful, be so careful,
Mhm.
because it's like these funeral directors in these toxic Facebook groups have nothing better to do than to
Yeah.
find out where you work and make your life a living hell.
Man,
Yeah.
that's heartbreaking.
So, oh yeah.
Ugh, it's disheartening.
Yeah. I do want to say before we close, what advice do you have for other funeral industry professionals who might find themselves in a similarly toxic workplace?
If you are in a toxic workplace, try and get out. Um, just try and get out as best as you can. That might even mean having to go work at not a funeral home for a little bit to support yourself until there is an opening at a place that you might be able to find suitable. Attend the funeral of a funeral home that you're looking at. Attend one of their funerals. See how they
Mhm.
work, watch them, and cuz attending a funeral will tell you a lot.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
you the way that they treat everyone, you'll see. Just keep an eye on them when the funeral is not going on. That's when they show
Mhm.
their true colors. That's
Yeah,
the big
if they're
time.
all huddled in a corner talking about the guests instead of trying to figure out where the flowers are going to go, that's another red flag. Do not ignore red flags. That's the big takeaway, right?
Yes. Yeah, that is, and I'm still trying to figure out, like, why do I still ignore some red flags? Is it just because I'm naive and just choose want to have like rose-colored glasses and just be like, it's
Yeah,
fine, fine, it's
we
fine.
we want to believe the best in people.
If you really are going to go into this industry, watch for the red flags, speak up, especially if you're at a corporate funeral home, you have an HR, use
Oh yeah.
it.
And I always say, as an addition to what you've stated, take notes on your notes app in your phone, things you're concerned about.
Ooh, record.
Keep-
If Oklahoma is a one party consent state for recording, that's why I was able to get T's apology recorded.
Excellent.
If he found out I was recording and if we were in a state, that doesn't allow that, then I would be in trouble. But thankfully, look up your laws, find out what's legal, cover your ass.
100%. No, thank you so much for being on the show today, Em. I really appreciate your time, and I'm so sorry that that happened to you. Of course, it should never happen to anybody, but those of us in the industry, our heart goes out to you for that experience that
No,
you had.
thank you. I know I greatly appreciate it. Thank you for having me on here. Thank you for letting me tell my story. This has been a great experience. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. You have a wonderful week, and everybody else, you do the same.
Thank you for tuning in to an episode of Exposing Deathcare, the podcast. I truly appreciate your support and the courage of those who have shared their stories with us. If you or someone you know has a story to share, we encourage you to reach out. Your anonymousness will be protected, and your story could help prevent further harm. You can leave comments, ask questions, or provide feedback on our social medias, Exposing Deathcare, or email exposingdeathcare@gmail.com. Podcast music by Enlia.